Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast. And today's guest is Brett Richards, CEO and Director of Goldshore Resources, who are working in a major historical multi-million ounce gold opportunity in Ontario, Canada, and are keen to know more about this exciting asset that they're working on. Brett has a wealth of mining experience and knowledge. With over 30 years, he's been working for the likes of Banro, Roxgold, Katanga Mining and Kinross. His experience and expertise lies in financing mines, developing operations and M&A. So I'm getting Brett on the podcast to talk more about Goldshore Resources in more detail, plus other subjects and what his thoughts are in mining in Africa as well. He's got a lot of experience in Africa. So no further ado, let's get straight into this, and let's welcome Brett to the podcast. How you doing, Brett?
Hey, great, Rob. Thanks for having me on.
No, and I appreciate your time as well. So wondered if you can start off by, obviously a lot of people who listen to this probably know who you are, but those that don't, I just wondered if you can give us an overview of your background, say from when you first sort of graduated back in the day to sort of to sort of present now.
Yeah, sure. I think going back that far might be a little scary, but I've been in the mining and metal space for about 35 years now, and have worked for some pretty major companies over the years. I spent my first 15 years in base metals in the steel business, and then moved on to precious metals and directly mining for a company called Kinross here in Toronto. And I've lived in many jurisdictions in the world: Russia, South America, both Brazil and Chile, Nevada, and well prior to that in the 80s, in the steel business in New York and New Jersey. So about 20 years ago, while working for Kinross, I ended up getting an opportunity to seed capital and found. Be one of the founders of Katanga Mining with two other guys, and so we did, and I ended up moving to London, and I'm still technically based in London, although I'm in Toronto today, due to COVID, and I've been in London for the last kind of 18 years, and probably been focused on Africa for about the same amount of time, and have worked with a number of both listed and private companies in Africa, in Burkina Faso, Mali, Sierra Leone, Guinea, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Congo, a couple of times in Congo, South Africa, and also Egypt. So I've seen the continent for what it is. It is a wealth of minerals in many jurisdictions, and I have spent the last, as I say, 18 years there.
Yeah. Obviously, you've worked in many places that you've just said. From a personal point of view, was there any jurisdiction or country or even continent that you enjoyed the most?
Yeah, I think, with Avocet, I was with Avocet for 4 years as the CEO, and we had assets in Southeast Asia, both in Indonesia and the Philippines and in Malaysia. And I think, I certainly love Southeast Asia. And there are attractions to everywhere: South America, Africa, anything kind of in the equator or south of the equator obviously has favorable weather compared to Canada, and it's minus 40 below in the wintertime. So I enjoyed my time in Southeast Asia and in South America. But I think, something kind of has pulled me, and I think I will never completely leave a presence, or never completely leave my presence in Africa. I think I'll always be involved in something there. I have a large copper project in Zambia that I'm involved with, called Midnight Sun Mining, and I'm still kind of residually trying to complete a transaction for Banro, and also on some assets in South Africa. So I'm still pretty connected, and I think even as we develop Goldshore, and we'll talk about this story because it's a powerful one, I think there will just be a piece of me that stays connected to Africa.
Yeah, well, we'll speak about Africa a bit later, but obviously what I want to do is speak about Goldshore Resources, and I wonder if you can tell us a little bit more about the company.
Yeah, for sure. I last fall, September time, COVID was obviously rampant in Canada and globally. But Ontario was open to interprovincial travel, and I went out to Vancouver in British Columbia to meet with some clients and friends, and I happened to run across a guy who we started sharing stories. We had lunch together and started sharing stories about our view of the gold sector. And my view is quite simple. I think gold is on a path and a trajectory in one direction. I think we're going to be seeing, we're 1770 this morning. I think we're going to see, trading between 1800 and 2200 for the next 4 or 5 years and beyond that. And, nobody can predict kind of beyond that. But that's the trading range I see we're going to be in. And there will be spikes above that. And there will be spikes below that. And we've just seen one. We've been playing around the 1700s for a little while. But I think we're going to start to see movement north. And it's going to happen as gold does. It's going to happen like an accelerator. It'll plateau. It'll pull back. It'll accelerate again. It'll plateau. It'll pull back. But I think we're going to see a constant trajectory. I shared this view with a colleague out in Vancouver, and I said, I'm looking for projects in Africa that you kind of fit that mantra. They may not have been economic at $1,200 gold. They may not have been economic at $1,400 or $1,500 gold, but they will be economic in this new trading range that we've identified. And there are a lot of projects in Africa that kind of fit that band. So we continued on, and he said, well, I'm looking at a project in Ontario, and would you be interested in helping me and putting something together? And I said, yeah, I'm stuck in Toronto because of COVID. I can't go home to London, but I'm happy to do that. And I haven't left since then. Mind you, I've traveled a little bit, but I haven't really technically left this home or this project since then. And in January of 2021, we had identified a project late in October and November, worked on a transaction with Wesdome, and we closed the transaction in January of 2021 to acquire the Moss Lake project. And the Moss Lake project, and we can speak about it in a second, was a project that fit that mantra. It wasn't economic at $1,200 gold, but it is economic today. And there's a lot of reasons why we did the transaction with Wesdome. There's a lot of reasons why Wesdome did the transaction with us. But ultimately, we were able to transact and concurrently raise a bit of money to get moving. And yeah, here we are today.
Yeah. Wonder you can tell us how the transaction sort of came together, and how you sort of got involved in a little bit more detail.
Sure. So I was asked by my colleague. I was asked if I would be interested in running this new project, and we had been talking to colleagues of mine, colleagues of his, and a high net worth investor, and it all came together quite quickly. So we ended up putting together a fabulous board of very experienced guys. This is a board that you would see on a mid-tier company, and it would still be a premier board on a mid-tier company. This is a pretty special group of guys we've been able to pull together, and on our advisory board. So the team we have built here is pretty special, and this team was actually formed before we even did the transaction. We basically said, hey, would you be interested in helping and getting involved in this? And it was like, the answer was yes, quicker than it was, tell me more about it. And I think that's that's a testament to some of the people who were involved in this, and our chairman Gayla McNamara, who is really the architect behind all of this, and a few other guys. It really all came together. We met with Wesdome and started talking to Wesdome, and I got involved kind of in December, and they were very interested in divesting Moss Lake. They have two projects, Eagle River and Kiena, and they are very high grade underground operations, low tonnage. And Eagle, I think, is the third highest grade gold mine in the world. And Moss Lake is not that. It is a very high tonnage, very low grade open pit deposit. So it really is quite different and quite polar opposite to the Wesdome skill sets, their experience, their internal capacity. So this was something that it was good for them to put this into a new emerging junior. And now they get exposure to the project. They get exposure to the gold price. And they get a little bit of cash, and I think this is a good transaction for both parties. Very few times you see that, this is very symbiotic for both parties. Goldshore is emerging. We have a chance to do great things with this project, and the alternative was it was going to sit on the shelf still at Wesdome and not see any love or see any capital or see any development. So I think that's why this is a really good fit for both companies.
Yeah. You mentioned obviously the board, and you brought quite a few good people together. What would you say are the main attributes of these people that you brought together? Or generally speaking, what are the most important attributes of someone that's going to join a board like yours, or like a mid-tier mining company?
Well, I think obviously, I go beyond the chemistry. I go beyond the professionalism and the experience and all those things. I go beyond that because all of that is very important, and I'll explain why in a second. But these are a bunch of guys that were very aligned, both in this thesis of where the gold price is going to go and why these types of projects can do very well in this environment. But I think everybody on the board and on the advisory board have a very similar, I'll say, background and experience, where we've been where Goldshore needs to be, and we've been where Goldshore will be 5 years from now when it gets built and when it gets into production. And we've run those types of companies before, and almost everybody on our board has that development, construction, operational experience. One of the guys on our advisory board is David Garofalo, and David was the former CEO of Goldcorp, a multi-billion-dollar company, fifth largest gold company in Canada before its transaction. But this is just the stellar nature of some of the background of these guys, and we have two very, very excellent people from Wesdome, their appointees, Mike Michaud and Heather Laxton, and high quality people, and again, who are working for a mid-tier slash operator, and bring a wealth of experience as well. So this this group, we understand where Goldshore needs to go. We understand how to get there, and the level of quality and detail in getting this ready for the next stage. I've always been a believer that using the metaphor, the mining process is from A to Z if you're in Europe, we actually don't emerge on the front end of this at A. We actually emerge on partially way through. Let's call it L, and we're going to take this project from L to O. And somebody else is going to take it from O to Z, and that is, we have a job to do, and that job to do is to build on the existing historical resource we have, to build it up to be a project that can be very visible, and to do it in such a way that will make it easy to transact down the road with a mid-tier or a major. So we're working to those standards. We're actually spending money on things that junior mining companies wouldn't spend money on, because we know it's important down the road. We're trying to make it easy for somebody to understand this project and the work that's gone on, so that when we're in a position to transact, and I would love to build this project, don't get me wrong, but when we're in a position to build this project, our partners are many, not few, and that's the whole approach that we've taken. Again, this is a project that will be well north of $1 billion capex. I expect this will be well north of $1 billion NPV when we're done. And that's a real project. And I'm trying to set this up so that we can have visible exit. And I think that's important to not just us, but our shareholders. There will be an event down the road. And I'm just caution everybody, this is not going to be something that's going to be a long lifestyle CEO job where I'm going to be in this role for a long time. I'll maybe in the role for a long time, but these projects are going to come. They're going to get developed. We're going to add a lot of value. We're going to sell them, and we're going to have multiple ones in that pipeline to be able to do that.
Yeah. Can you speak about the transaction with Wesdome and to obviously acquire Moss Lake and why they were interested in partnering with Goldshore Resources?
Yeah, I think, aside from the obvious of getting exposure to the project and getting exposure to the gold price, we weren't the first people to approach them, and we weren't the first people to try and transact with them. But I think it made sense for them simply because we were able to do a transaction quickly. The quality of the people on our board are commensurate with the quality of the people that are on Wesdome's in their company and on their board. So I think they saw this as, hey, these guys aren't a fly by night. These guys aren't going to wave their arms and try and raise money every time the market pops, and they're going to do this in a very methodical way. They're going to do it a proper way, and that's what we want to see. We don't want to see somebody come out and put $1 million into the ground in this and look at us and then try and flip it to somebody for small value. We raised $25 million in January, and we're going to put all that money into the ground. So I expect that the large reason why Wesdome were interested in this was the sheer speed to market, and we're trying to get this to market as soon as possible. We also had, the project has 4 million ounces of historical resource, about 1.5 million in inferred indicated, and 2.5 in inferred. So, as what the attraction for us was, we're getting this project with transaction terms that really suit it. The headline number on this is around $57 million, which works out to, it works out to about $13 and $14 an ounce at the end of the day. And at this stage, we thought that was good value to enter the market, to RTO or IPO into the market, and build on that, which we still believe that. So I think, again, it's one of these situations where I think it's very symbiotic, and we will have a win-win result on this, as we progress.
Yeah. Obviously, you mentioned that you've just raised 25 million. Can you let us know what you plan to sort of do from now with those proceeds?
Yeah. So, again, I'm approaching this in a very methodical way. We're trying to put as much money into the ground as possible. We have 2 employees right now, myself and Pete Flindell. Pete has been with me on the last 7 or 8 projects. He's been with me for almost 20 years. We worked together in Southeast Asia. We worked together in Africa on 5 or 6 different projects in Africa. And quite frankly, he was, the only person I wanted on this project because he knows these types of this type of geology. And not everybody knows everything, but Pete's a very smart guy and can figure things out quite quickly. So, and he loves to be in the field. He loves to get on the ground, and he loves to build capacity and to train people and to train host community, First Nations peoples, and so this is a really good fit for him as it is for me. And like I say, our overheads are quite small with just 2 of us, and we don't even have a head office, although we have a registered office in Vancouver. But what we're going to do on the ground is going to be very prescribed and methodical. The first thing we've started to do is because Moss Lake has a long history of many eras dating back to the early 1900s, and data started to accumulate in the 1980s and 1990s with drilling programs, an operating mine on one of the land packages we have. And so the first thing we want to do is consolidate all the data into one large database and use that information as the basis and the platform as to how we're going to kind of build on it. But the ultimate thing we want to do is come up with quality drill targets so that we've committed to putting 100,000 meters of drilling down into the ground. You know, we want bang for our buck. We want results. We want to know that where we're drilling, we're going to get good results and good indications of what the larger picture looks like. So, and it's not as simple as that all sounds. We have a shear zone hosted gold deposit at Moss Lake. We have an IOCG copper gold mineralization at Hanlon. And then there's a big volcanic massive sulfide, a VMS copper, zinc, silver, gold mineralization at North Coldstream. So quite different. If I look at our neighbors at Kessel Run, they have some significant high grade narrow vein kind of structures on their property. So there's a lot of things going on in the area, which is exciting, but it's also needs to be figured out, which is why I say Pete is the right guy for this job. So data consolidation, first order of business. The second thing we're doing, which starts today, actually, ironically, is we're flying a heliborne VTEM survey over our entire property. So vertical time domain electromagnetic survey. We'll get a nice footprint of kind of the geological context of all of our prospects, and it'll give us that 3D version of the mineralized zones. So we can identify new targets, quality targets, in addition to all the other data we have. So we will kind of lay that all out in a few weeks' time with the existing information, the new information we have, and we'll start to plan our drilling program. We're also going through a very comprehensive relogging exercise to build a bit of a rock library of to define all of the rock types and alteration styles and mineralogy, to ensure we have a kind of a comprehensive, path of logging in the future. Again, it's about data collection, information, using that information to build the profile of this project. So the more information we can gather from the past, collect in the future, and put together will certainly assist us and add a lot of value. So second thing, VTEM survey. Third thing, and we have applied for our exploration permit now. Takes a bit of time, and especially with COVID, it's been taking some time. We will launch into a drilling campaign, probably starting sometime in June, and we'll run it around the winter. We'll run it for the next 18, 24 months steady. We won't stop it. We'd like to wrap up to kind of 3 or 4 drill rigs on infill, and 1 or 2 drill rigs on scout drilling, and that's our intention, is to build a larger resource and a higher quality resource at Moss Lake, and look to step out in the various extensions that we have in order to identify kind of geological potential and project upside for someone down the road.
Yeah, so obviously you've got quite a lot of work ahead of you, which is great to hear. Can you replicate this model again once you've taken Moss Lake as far as a junior developer can take it?
Yeah, I think so, and that's our intent. Our intent is to continue to look for projects, and I guess I put on my business development hat. We will continue to look for projects that fit this mantra. And there are a lot of them, and I'm not going to be commercially kind of, I'll say reckless in going after them. They have to make sense. They have to be acquired for the right value. But there are a lot in kind of our camp, kind of that Thunder Bay Red Lake camp. You have Rainy River, that is new gold that's being built. You've got Hammond Reef, is a very similar style deposit. But over in the Timmins camp and over in the Val-d'Or camp, you have, again, very similar projects. IAMGOLD have Cote Lake. It's, high tonnage, low grade, big capex. And Kirkland Lake have the Detour project. So it is and can be replicated. It's our intent to do it. But like I say, if we don't see something in our jurisdiction that we're in today, which is Northern Ontario, we'll look into northern Quebec, we'll look in other parts of Canada, and we'll look in the US. I'll look in Nevada, and I'll look in other parts of North America. I'd like to keep the jurisdictional risk profile the same. I don't want to jump in and immediately go into the DRC from Canada. Not sure I would want to go back to the DRC in any event, but you know, so I just think we want to keep our story simple. You know, we're going to go from L to O, and we're going to do it on this project. Then we're going to, once we get to M, we'll bring another project in at L, or maybe it'll be D or F or whatever. But metaphorically, that is the process we're going to go through on the alphabet with each project.
Yeah. I just want to go back. Obviously, you mentioned Africa seems to be a little bit in your heart. What would you say the outlook is for mining in Africa? I mean, what opportunities do you see, whether it's in the gold space, whether it's in West Africa, East Africa? Why don't you just give us just an overview of your thoughts on mining in Africa?
Yeah, and you know, intentionally, I stay very close to many of the countries in Africa. I have been fortunate enough to work in about 12 of them, and I've met the presidents in about 6 of them. And I've been very fortunate with the projects that we've had. And a lot of these countries are blessed with this mineral wealth in some degree or form. And I think a lot of things don't advance, don't develop on the speed at which we're used to seeing things develop, because they have a lack of infrastructure, because they have a lack of governance, because they have, you know, difficulties in their countries with security and or corruption. So I think the speed of development always gets impaired. Hence why it is discounted in some cases substantially to other parts of the world. Do I think it's easy to work in Africa? It's absolutely not easy to work in Africa. But as far as looking for mineral wealth and looking at, you know, high grade deposits in a marketplace where copper is punching $10,000 a ton this morning, like $5 a pound copper hasn't been seen for almost 10 years, maybe longer. And there's no sign of it pulling back. And gold, you know, getting close back to the trading range I spoke of, there's no indication it's going to go pull back to $1,200. It's just, you know, I look at what the US just announced last night. You know, they want to spend trillions of dollars that they don't have into building capacity and infrastructure in their own country. And they're going to print a lot of money to do that. So how does that impact the gold price? Well, if we were back to the kind of the old gold standard back in 1971, gold price would be about $500,000 an ounce right now. But obviously that doesn't happen. But if the U.S. Continues to do this, and I think we're going to see it globally in a lot of countries, because there is a rebuilding, there is a rebirthing coming out of the global pandemic. That is, it is going to have to either cause inflation or these countries will simply not be able to recover unless they print more money and provide some sort of easing. The job losses, the economic impact that this pandemic has had has been substantial. That only means good things for the gold price. And although the gold price has been tempered somewhat by crypto, by Bitcoin, there's alternatives now for what people think are inflation hedges. Maybe some people think that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is one of those. But you've got something that is highly unregulated. It's not asset backed, and I just think that gold will stand the test of time as it has for thousands of years, and it will continue to do that. And I'm not saying that cryptocurrency is a flash in the pan or something that will disappear, but I just simply don't think it will have the material impact. And it's having a material impact today, but I don't think longer term, I think people will go back to having taken comfort in the gold price.
Yeah. Obviously, you've been in gold quite a lot of your career. Have you ever thought about looking at silver projects at all?
I have, and obviously there's a natural correlation between silver and gold, both in pricing, both in supply and demand dynamics. I've looked at silver projects before. I like silver. Silver may have a better run than gold this time around. We'll see. But precious metals are precious metals. Although I've spent a lot of time in gold, and I've also spent a lot of time in base metals and in copper and cobalt. So I expect that, and copper's having a good run now. Cobalt's actually starting to pick up some traction, and those types of EV related metals are going to have a very strong run for some time to come, as are PGMs. Platinum, palladium are at all-time highs. So gold price not really at an all-time high, but certainly showing that it can be punch the $2,200 number and as an all-time high. So you've got many commodity sectors and base metals, precious metals, all starting to looking like they're in for a fairly decent long bull run. And so I think you're going to see that spin off into more projects. You're going to see that spin off into economic opportunities both in Africa but also globally, and that's why I say this project has the size and scale to really move the needle, and we're placing it in this market, whereas it would never have been developed 10 years ago, or 8 years ago, or 6 years ago.
Yeah. So as a conclusion, what's the outlook for Goldshore to obviously shareholders, your current shareholders, and obviously potential shareholders?
Yeah, so we have made our filing statement. We have made our application to be listed on the TSX Venture Exchange. Our ticker symbol that we've reserved is GSHR. So watch for that. We expect to trade kind of second or third week of May, pending the process we're going through with the exchange. It's a bit of a question and answer to get there. And we'll emerge as a gold developer. We're going to skip that gold junior category and go right into gold developer. And we'll enter with a $65 million market cap based on our share structure and the fundraising we just did. So where to from there? Well, a 2013 PEA on the Moss Lake project demonstrated an NPV of over $650 million at today's gold price. So we have a 10-bagger at our feet here that will prove up, and that we will do the hard miles, we will do the difficult work, and we will demonstrate that it's a real project, so that we can realize something of order of magnitude relative to its NPV. We'll redo a PEA down the road, and I fully expect it'll be well north of $650 million in NPV. And yeah, I expect the capital will be well north of $1 billion. So I'm excited about the prospects of where Goldshore can go. Now, again, you have to take a view on the gold price, and if you take the same view I do, then you're going to be in for a very fun ride. And I'm looking forward to getting this through its development phases as fast as possible. Again, I truly believe that speed to market is one of the most important things when you have these projects. You can't sit on them unless you have to, unless the capital markets don't allow you to raise money. But the capital markets have sent a very good message to the Goldshore. We support you. We agree with this mantra, and we raised $25 million. So we were actually so oversubscribed, we had to cut back the subscription quite extensively. So this is not just Brett's view of the world. This is many people view the world in a very similar way. So I think Goldshore will benefit from that. Goldshore shareholders will benefit from that. And I think this is going to be a really fun 2 years. We'll try and get the next project into the pipeline and get started on that in due time. We're not going to do everything at once, but we'll get it there in due time. But I'm just trying to manage the expectations of everybody. This is something that we're going to do over a period of time, redo over a period of time, redo over a period of time, as we keep pressing the repeat button. And that's what my shareholders have asked me to do. That's what my shareholders expect me to do. And quite frankly, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, no, certainly. And I agree your sentiment as well, that I think the gold price is I think it's sort of stabilized now, and I think it is going to start to gradually go up over the next X amount of years, especially like you said, with all the money printing. So I think you're in the right position, and you positioned yourself, and the project is the time is just right now to carry that through. So I certainly agree with a lot or everything that you've said.
Yeah, thanks.
If our audience wants to sort of reach out to you, if they've got any questions, how can they go about doing that? Are you on any social media platforms, etc.?
Yes, and it's a funny story, but you know, I'm of a generation that doesn't really do the social media. I find it very time consuming to do it on a personal level, so I don't have a lot of social media. But it was something I had to step out of my comfort zone and my comfort box on, and I have a company that is doing this for me. We work in parallel together. They run all my social media platforms. I talk to them multiple times a day. And they're getting my message out there. So this is the old school way of doing social media, is I tell somebody what we're doing, and they end up doing it for us. We are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on Instagram, we are on LinkedIn, Goldshore Resources. We have info@goldshoreresources.com, and I welcome people to send me questions. I welcome people to reach out to me. I will get back to anybody that reaches out and asks us questions about our project. I'm very accessible. It's not difficult to find me, and I'll certainly make a point of returning my comments.
Yeah, no worries. What we do is we'll put these in the show notes accompanying this podcast, and also on the YouTube channel that this will go out on. So really appreciate your time, Brett. It's certainly an exciting journey ahead that you've got, and what you've explained, and I wish you all the best in that. No doubt with the members of board members that you've got on within the board can certainly help you with that journey, and I'm sure it's going to be a success. So really appreciate your time again. Our audience, appreciate you listening. If you've got any questions about the project, appreciate if you can reach out to Brett, obviously, and I'll include those details in the show notes if you've got any questions, and I'm sure he'll answer them and get back to you. So really appreciate your time with Brett again. And until next time, happy mining.